Yo, you're watching a Screaming Fish here, people, and once again I'm here for you guys with yet another video, and this time, as you can tell by the clearly very obvious title at the bottom of the screen, or under the screen if you prefer logic, we are looking at A Quiet Place, which is a horror movie directed by John Krasinski, which had a really awesome trailer, I might add, which is part of the reason I went to see it, and also because, well, simply, I needed an adrenaline rush, because I think I'm starting to become an adrenaline junkie when it comes to horror movies. I should probably be a bit worried about that, but right now I'm not, because, I mean, I like watching movies anyway, so... Anyway, without further ado, let's get into my review of A Quiet Place. So, yes, I am an adrenaline junkie when it comes to horror movies. I'm really into them now. And, yeah, I saw the trailers for this movie, and they looked really, really cool. And I was very intrigued by the premise. But just based off past experiences, I never really went into this movie expecting something truly amazing. I just went into this movie expecting to get scared, because I will watch a horror movie and I may get scared, but that doesn't mean I think the movie is particularly any good or really anything near great. But with that said, A Quiet Place gave me exactly what I wanted, and much, much more. To put it short, this movie is amazing, okay? The performances from pretty much everyone in this movie are amazing. Even the kids in this film really, really give it their all, and it pays off in a tremendous effect. There is barely any dialogue in this movie, as the trailers have been implying. So yes, most of the story is told through sign language and visual storytelling, but that makes the experience so much more enthralling than it could have been. An experience that is equally authentic as it is captivating. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt give a couple of their best performances yet. They are actually a married couple in real life, so that does add an extra layer of authenticity to their chemistry, which, by the way, is as gold as you can get. They both do a masterful job at conveying emotions using their eyes and facial expressions, and even their body language helps to convey the emotions that they want to convey. I was even captivated by watching what this family was having to do just to survive in this world. Not just by the way they use sign language to communicate with each other, but also by the things they are forced to do in order to survive. There are a lot of scenes where the characters are forced into making decisions that they don't want to make in order to survive, decisions that may affect the safety of others. It's an effective way of raising the stakes even higher than they already were at the start of the movie, and it made me feel even more sympathy for these characters. The kids in this film actually stole the show performance-wise. Noah Jupe was fantastic in the more scarier scenes, and I loved the relationship between him and his father in particular. The best performance in the whole movie, though, came from Melissa Simmons, who plays the daughter of this family, who is also deaf. She was not only the most interesting character, but her performance was just magnificent. I think because the actress is deaf in real life, that added a greater sense of realism to her performance. She has a lot of friction with her family, most notably the father, which results in a lot of compelling moments of drama and character building. Overall, though, I loved all the characters, even if I did have my favourites. They all brought something to the table that made each member of the family just as interesting as each other. Heck, I don't even know their names, and I still found myself caring for all of them. I love the small moments where this family are basically bonding with each other and trying to keep that sense of hope alive despite the circumstances. It shows that despite the world they now live in, there is still humanity left in all of them, and those small moments make me want to root for their survival even more. You could say that one of the film's messages is to enjoy the little things in life, and throughout the movie there are examples of that theme materializing in these characters, when they do simple things like sit down to dinner as a family or play board games with each other, for example. These characters aren't portrayed as dumb people who don't know what they're doing and make dumb decisions every 5 minutes. They're actually really smart and clever, for example the way they use sign language to communicate with each other, or basically everything they do to try and survive in this world. A Quiet Place is one of those movies that builds tension from the minute it starts. A lot of horror movies nowadays, even some of my favourite ones like the Insidious movies for example, do rely quite heavily on jump scares. Jump scares are an effective way of scaring the bejesus out of an audience, but when there are too many of them, it can become quite jarring and the effect wears off pretty quickly. In A Quiet Place, there are jump scares present, but they are few and far between. So wisely, this movie goes the route of such classics like Ridley Scott's Alien and John Carpenter's The Thing to create fear through the use of tension, and that is one of the things that this movie does best. It gets to a point where you think it can't possibly build any more tension than it already has, but it just keeps building. This movie is an unbelievably tense experience as a result. My heart was basically bursting out of my chest by the time the third act of this film kicked in. This massive use of tension did in turn help to make the small use of jump scares more effective, and I'll admit there were a few times where I literally flew out of my seat, but with that said, while most of the film's horror elements are superbly executed, there are a few times where it is let down by the film's score. There are a couple of scares in this film that are built up really well, but then are bogged down by the music. The score for this movie is very good and quite chilling in a lot of parts, but this film does have a few points where the film relies on screeching cues to basically say, okay, something is happening now, something scary, so you should be scared now. Ah! The best scares in this movie are the ones that come naturally, and thankfully for the most part those few lackluster scares did nothing to affect the experience. One of the film's best elements for me was the sound design. The sound design in this movie is really something else, and a lot of that is due to how it goes back and forth between the perspective of the daughter and the perspective of the other characters. When you're seeing things from the perspective of this girl, you can obviously see what she's seen, but because she's deaf there isn't any sound. This creative choice was a very smart move, not only because it made some of the film's horror elements seem even more terrifying, but it also made me understand what life is like for her on a daily basis. And I'll say it again, I loved all the characters, but this is part of the reason why the daughter stuck out to me so much. The creatures in A Quiet Place are actually pretty mysterious. Even when the movie ended, I still knew almost nothing about them, other than they react to sound. But in this case, the less you know the better. It cranks the intrigue up to 11 because you don't know where they came from, why they are here, or what their purpose is. You don't even see much of them either. You only get quick glimpses of them via the use of extremely well-timed editing, or when the characters are looking at them through the bushes, or when they pop out almost out of nowhere to kill things. I was admittedly worried about the inevitable reveal of what the creatures actually look like, because in the past I've watched movies where they build up the creature reveal so well that it gets me really pumped and really scared to see what the creature actually looks like, but then when the reveal actually happens, it's pretty underwhelming. However, in A Quiet Place, when the movie finally revealed the creatures in their full form, man, it gave me goosebumps. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because that is something that deserves not to be spoiled. Like, at all. John Krasinski has made a truly fantastic movie. This is the third film he has directed following brief interviews with Hideous Men and The Hollers. His direction of this movie cannot be overstated. Last year we had Jordan Peele making the jump from comedy to horror with his first feature film, Get Out. And this year we have John Krasinski with A Quiet Place. And you know, I would make a joke about which comedian might release a horror movie next year, but one, I don't know too many comedians, and two, about 1 million other YouTubers have already made that joke. So let's just move on, okay? Okay. So considering we're at this point in the video, I don't think you really want me to babble on any further about how much I loved this movie, but I'm gonna do it anyway. A Quiet Place is a super intense horror movie that explores the importance of family while also being a chilling tale of survival and the fear of the unknown. It's one of the best horror movies I've seen in the past few years, and based off literally every word I've just said in this review, A Quiet Place gets a 9.8 out of 10. So guys, those are my thoughts on A Quiet Place. By the way, I'm not just whispering because of the irony, I'm just whispering because it's night time, and I don't want to wake anybody else up. So, yeah. Anyway, once again, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Stardust. And I will indeed see you guys in the next one. So, without further ado, I'll let you enjoy your day or night. Depends on what time of the day you're watching this video. So,